Welcome to Bedtime Stories, a soothing transition between the busy day you've left behind and the restful night ahead. Tonight's story is called The Fisherman and His Wife. Through the ages, tales have been told and passed down from generation to generation to help people make sense of the collective experience they are sharing. The Fisherman and His Wife is a classic tale that connects us to the themes of abundance and gratitude and reminds us how easily we can focus on what's lacking in our lives and lose sight of all that we're blessed with. This story highlights how the practice of appreciation can help us to get off the treadmill of always searching for bigger, better, and more, and helps us find a place of peace and contentment. So take the time you need to get comfortable, finding the perfect position to enjoy this story as you allow yourself to drift off to sleep, allowing your body to relax, knowing that you're completely supported by the bed. And if you haven't already closed your eyes, you may do so now. Your day has come to an end. There's nothing more you need to do or think about. Tomorrow is another day, and you can pick it all up again then. For now, simply let yourself go. Feel the sheets and the blanket keeping you cozy and warm. Your head resting in the soft pillow. And as we begin the story, connect to the feeling of a newborn baby, swaddled and held, being gently rocked to sleep. Not a care in the world. Relax your mind and your ears and let the words of the story come to you effortlessly. Once upon a time, there was a fisherman who lived with his wife out by the sea. They were very poor and had to live in an old pigsty. Every day the fisherman went out with his rod and his pole, and he fished so that he and his wife could have something to eat. One day, he was sitting by the water's edge, looking into the clear blue water, when all of a sudden his line went down, 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 down below. And when he reeled in his line, he was amazed as he had caught a very large flounder. He was even more amazed when the flounder spoke out to him in a clear voice. "Listen to me, fisherman. Please, I beg you, let me live. I'm not really a flounder, but an enchanted prince. I promise you, I would not be tasty to eat. So please put me back in the water and let me go." "My goodness," said the fisherman, "there's no need to say anything more. Even if you're not a prince, you're a fish that can talk, and so you should be set free." And with that, the fisherman put the flounder back into the clear blue water, and he swam away to the bottom, leaving a long streak of red behind him. The fisherman shook his head in disbelief and got up to return home to his wife in the pigsty. "My dear husband," said the wife, "Have you caught nothing today?" "Nothing for us to eat," said the fisherman, "but I did catch a magical flounder who said he was an enchanted prince, so I had to let him go again." "Didn't you wish for anything first?" said the wife. "Well, no," said the fisherman. "What should I have wished for?" "Ah," said the wife, "it is surely a hard life living always in this pigsty. It stinks and is so disgusting. You could have wished for a little hut for us. Go back and call the flounder. Tell him we want to have a little hut. I'm sure he will certainly give us that." "I don't know," said the fisherman. "Why should I go there again?" "Why?" said the wife. "Because you caught him and let him go. He owes you and is sure to give us this wish. Go at once." The fisherman still didn't feel like he wanted to go, but he didn't want to oppose his wife either. So reluctantly, he went back to the sea. When he got there, the sea was all green and yellow and no longer clear and smooth. He stood still for a while and finally said, "Flounder, flounder in the sea, come back, come back, come back to me. My wife Isabella has commanded me." At that moment, the flounder came swimming up to the fisherman and asked, "Well, what does she want, my friend?" The man didn't feel confident, but he spoke all the same. "Ah, you see, well, I did catch you, and then I let you go free. And my wife says I really ought to have wished for something first. She does not like to live in a pigsty any longer. She would like to have a hut." "Go then," said the flounder. "She has it already." The fisherman nodded a thank you to the fish and went back to his home, and he saw that his wife was no longer in the pigsty. The pigsty was nowhere to be seen, and in its place there stood a little hut, and his wife was sitting on a bench outside the door. She took him by the hand and said to him, "Just come inside, my husband, look. Now isn't this a great deal better than the dirty pigsty?" So they went inside to see. There was a pretty little living room, a bedroom, and a kitchen with furniture made of the finest quality wood. And behind the hut was a small yard with ducks and geese and a garden with flowers and fruit trees. "Look," said the wife, "is this not a much nicer place to live?" "Yes, it certainly is," said the fisherman, "and now we will live quite happily and content." "We will think about that," said the wife. And with that, they ate a dinner and went to bed. Everything went well for the next few weeks, and they were very happy with their little hut. And then one day the wife said to the fisherman, "Listen, husband, this hut is far too small for us, and the garden and the yard are simply not enough. The flounder might just as well have given us a larger house. I should like to live in a great mansion. Go to the flounder and tell him to give us what we want." "But wife," said the man, "this hut is quite good enough for us and all that we need. Why should we live in a mansion? Just do as I wish and go ask the flounder. He can surely do this for us." "I will not," said the man. "The flounder has only just given us this hut. I don't want to go back so soon and ask for more. It might make him angry." "Just go," said the wife. "He can do this so easily, and he will be glad to do it. Just go to him. You'll see." The man's heart grew heavy, and he did not want to go. He didn't think it was the right thing to do, but he also wanted to please his wife. So in the end, he went off to speak with the flounder again. When he came to the sea, it was no longer green and yellow, and seemed thicker than before. This time, the water was very purple and dark blue, and it even seemed to be gray at times. But it was still quiet. The fisherman stood at the edge of the sea and said, "Flounder, flounder in the sea, come back, come back, come back to me. My wife Isabella has commanded me." "Well, what does she want now?" said the flounder. The man paused out of fear, but finally told the flounder his wife's request. "My wife wants to live in a great mansion," he said. "Go to it then," said the flounder. "She's standing before the door as we speak." The fisherman thanked the flounder and went away to go home. When he got there, he found a great 2-story mansion, and his wife was standing on the steps in front. She took him by the hand and said, "Come into our new mansion, husband." So he went inside with her and saw that the mansion had an enormous front hall paved with marble. There were many servants who flung all the doors wide open. There were beautiful fabrics draped on all the walls, and the chairs and the tables in all the rooms were made of pure gold. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceilings, and the carpets were so thick and soft they seemed to swallow up his feet. The dining room was piled high with delicious foods and wine, and the fisherman realized he no longer needed to fish every day. Outside behind the mansion was a great courtyard. There was a magnificent large garden too, with all the most beautiful roses and fruit trees. Exotic birds were singing in the branches. "How wonderful," said the woman. "Isn't this so beautiful?" "Yes, indeed," said the man. "And now let it be. We will live together in this beautiful mansion and be content." "Well, we'll have to consider that," said the woman. The next morning, the wife woke up just as the sun was rising. From her new bed, she watched the beautiful countryside stretching out before her as far as she could see. Her husband was still asleep, so she poked him in the side with her elbow and said, "Get up, husband. Look out the window. Don't you see? We could be rulers over this land, and you could be king. I want you to go back to the flounder and tell him that this is what we want." "But my wife, why should we be the rulers? I don't want to be king." "Well," said the wife, "if you won't be king, I will be queen. Go to the flounder, for I will rule." "Why, my wife, why? Why do you want to be queen? I do not ask the flounder for this." "Why not?" said the woman. "Why shouldn't I be queen? Go to him this instant. It must be so." So off the man went, but he was very unhappy. "It's not right. It's not right," he thought. "Why does she want to be a queen?" He didn't wish to go, but yet he went. And when he came to the sea, he saw it had become dark and gray, and the water had a terrible smell. He stood by the water's edge for a long time and finally said, "Flounder, flounder in the sea, come back, come back, come back to me. My wife Isabella has commanded me. Well, what does she want now? Said the flounder. Alas, said the man, she wants to be a queen. Go to her, said the flounder, for she is now a queen. So the man went, and when he came back home to the mansion, it had become much, much larger. It had become a palace with many, many rooms. It was surrounded by a high wall with a massive gate out front. Armed guards stood watch before it, and there were more soldiers marching in the courtyard. When he went inside, absolutely everything was made of real marble, and famous statues were placed all around. Gold glittered from every angle, and when he went through the doors of the great hall, he saw his wife sitting on a high throne of gold and diamonds, with a great crown of jewels on her head. She held a golden scepter in her hand and wore a gown that flashed and sparkled from all the precious gems that adorned it. She was surrounded on both sides by advisors and servants who stood with their heads bowed, waiting on her command. The man stood before her and said, I see that you are now a queen. Yes, she said, I am now a queen. He stood and looked at her for some time and finally said, Now that you are a queen, let it be. We will not wish for anything more. No, husband, said the woman quite anxiously. I find time passes very heavily. I can bear it no longer. I am a queen, but I must be the empress too. O wife, why do you wish to be the empress? Husband, she said, go to the flounder. I will be the empress. But my wife, said the husband, he cannot make you the empress. I cannot ask that from the fish. The flounder simply can't make you empress. I'm sure that he cannot. How dare you, said the wife. I am a queen, and you are nothing but my husband. Go at once. If he can make me a queen, he can make me the empress. I will be empress. Go instantly. And so he was forced to go. As he went, he was very troubled and thought to himself, this will not end well. It will not end well at all. To be empress is too greedy. The flounder will at last be tired of our requests. When he reached the sea, it was black and thick and began to boil and bubble. There was a sharp wind that blew, and the man was afraid. But he went and stood by the sea. Flounder, flounder in the sea, come back, come back, come back to me. My wife Isabella has commanded me. Well, what does she want now? Said the flounder. Flounder, my wife wants to be the empress. Go to her, said the flounder. She is empress already. So off the man went, and when he got home, the whole palace had been turned into polished marble, with great oil paintings and golden ornaments everywhere. Soldiers were marching before the gate, blowing trumpets and beating cymbals and drums. In the house, kings and queens and presidents were all waiting their turn to kiss her hand. The great doors were of pure gold, and when they were opened for him, he saw his wife on her new throne, 10 feet high and made entirely of diamonds. On both sides of her stood rows of guards, each guard bigger than the one before him. There were kings and queens, princes and princesses, lords and ladies, all the most powerful people in the world, but they all bowed to his wife, the Empress. Then the man went and stood among them and said, "Wife, are you Empress now?" "Yes," she said, "now I am Empress." Then he stood and looked at her carefully, and when he had looked at her for some time, he said, "Wife, be content now that you are Empress." "Husband," said she, "why are you standing there? Now I am Empress, but I will be Pope too. Go to the flounder." my wife, what will you not wish for? You cannot be Pope. The flounder cannot do this for you." "Husband," said the woman, "I will be Pope. Go immediately. I must be Pope this very day." "No, my wife," said the man, "I do not want to ask that from him. That would not do. It is too much. The flounder cannot make you Pope." "What nonsense," said the wife. "If he can make me Queen and Empress, he can surely make me the Pope. Go to him directly. I am Empress, and you are nothing but my husband. Go at once." The man was afraid, but he went with a troubled heart. He shivered and shook, and his knees and legs trembled, and a high wind blew over the land. The clouds flew and grew dark. The leaves fell from the trees. The water rose and roared as if it were boiling and splashed upon the shore. And in the distance, he saw ships being tossed around on the waves, firing guns at each other. And yet in the middle of the sky, there was still a small patch of blue, though on every side it was red as a heavy storm. Full of despair, the man went and stood in much fear and said, "Flounder, flounder in the sea, come back, come back, come back to me. My wife Isabella has commanded me." "Well, what does she want now?" said the flounder. "Alas, she wants to be the Pope." "Go to her then," said the flounder, "for she is Pope already." When the man returned, he saw what seemed to be a large church surrounded by palaces and crowds of people. He pushed his way through, and the guards allowed him in through the gates. There were thousands and thousands of candles lighting the church, and there he saw his wife sitting on an even greater throne. She wore a golden cloak and had 3 great golden crowns adorned to the diamonds and jewels. She had the golden scepter in one hand and the staff of the Pope in her other. On both sides of her was a row of magnificent candles, each one larger than the one before. All the royalty, all the kings and queens and presidents and heads of state were on their knees before her, kissing her golden shoe. "Wife," said the man as he looked attentively at her now, "are you the Pope?" "Yes," she said, "I am the Pope." So he stood and just looked at her, and it was just as if he was looking at the bright sun. After he had stood looking at her for some short time, he said, "Wife, if you are now the Pope, be content and ask for nothing more." But she looked as stiff as a board and did not move or show any signs of life. Then the man said, "Wife, now that you're the Pope, you should be satisfied. You cannot become anything greater now." "I will consider it," said the woman. But she was not satisfied, and greediness left her no sleep that night. She was continually thinking about what more she could become. She tossed and turned the whole night through. She wanted more, but couldn't think what else was left for her to become. Eventually, the sun began to rise, and when the woman saw the red of dawn, she sat up in bed and looked intently at it. Why shouldn't I be the one to order the sun and the moon to rise, she thought. She called for her husband. Go to the flounder, she said, for I wish to be even as God is. The man was so horrified that he fell to his knees. He thought she just must have misspoke. Wife, what are you saying? Husband, if I can't order the sun and moon to rise, I can't bear to look at them. I'll never be happy again unless I can make them rise myself. Then she looked at him so terribly that a shudder ran through his entire body, and she said at once, Go, I wish to be like God. My wife, I plead with you, the flounder cannot do that. He can make an empress and a pope, but he cannot make you as God. Please, I beg you, go. Go on being as you are and be the pope. At that, she fell into a rage. Her hair flew wildly above her head. She tore at her clothing and kicked the man with her foot. She screamed, I can't stand it a moment longer. Go, go, go this instant and do as I command. The man got up and ran away like a madman. Outside, a great storm was raging and the wind was blowing so hard that he could barely stand. Houses and trees toppled over and the mountains trembled and shook. Rocks rolled into the sea and the sky became pitch black. It was full of lightning and thunder filled the air. The sea was fierce with black waves as high as tall buildings. He cried out, but could not even hear his own voice. Flounder, flounder in the sea, come back, come back, come back to me. My wife Isabella has commanded me. Well, what does she want now? Said the flounder. Alas, she wants to be God. Go to her, said the fish, and you will find her back again in the pigsty. And there they are living to this day.